Welcome to this special event, the CARP debate on Fight Back. I'm Libby Znaimer. We are here with 8 candidates for mayor, including 2 who have not yet had the opportunity to appear on a debate stage. Policy analyst Chloe Brown came in 3rd in the last municipal election, just last October, with 6.3% of the vote. Former journalist Anthony Furey is making a real run in this race, coming from nowhere, basically, and now showing around 10% or 4th. The frontrunner is Olivia Chow, who served as a city councillor for many years and later as a federal NDP MP. Mark Saunders is a former chief of Toronto Police, running an organization with a budget of over $1 billion and thousands of employees. Josh Matlow is the councillor for Toronto St. Paul's, elected with the biggest plurality in the last mayoral election. Also with us, former city councillor and deputy mayor Anna Bailao, who previously secured federal and provincial money for housing in the city. Mitzie Hunter represented Scarborough-Guildwood as an MPP for a decade and also was a former Liberal education minister. And Bradford is the councillor for Beaches, East York, and the new father of a second daughter, Bronwyn, born on Monday. Congratulations. Welcome to you all, and let's get right into it with our only timed rapid-fire questions. First, in 30 seconds or less, I would like a single sentence from each of you telling us what your top priority is. I'll call you, starting with Anthony Furey.
Yeah, thanks, Libby. I'm going to phase out the drug injection sites, replace them with treatment centers, because everyone's telling me that the City of Toronto can't go one step further to being like Seattle, San Francisco, Vancouver, all those awful scenes we see. We're a compassionate society. We got to help those people, but we can't let our standards slip anymore in our beautiful city.
Chloe Brown.
My biggest issue is bringing down the cost of living on a variety of services and goods. When we look at the City of Toronto, it has a lot of public lands that could be working for the working class, whether that's commercial urban farms, residential apartments, and it's only a matter of the mayor signing over the legal title to communities. The government should be acting as a facilitator of our public trust fund instead of kid with a venture capitalist fund. We need to have democracy for the working class, and that requires giving them the land, data, and resources.
Mark Saunders.
Great, and thank you for having us here today. The #1 issue is public safety. When we look at our city and we look at certain parts of our city, we see the decay. As mayor, I will make sure that the government's primary responsibility is to keep our communities safe. If we have a safe community, we have a healthy community. If we have a healthy community, it's vibrant, it's vital. It makes Toronto, Toronto again, and making sure that we reinforce those abilities will keep our city safe.
Olivia Chow.
Libby, a lot of people are having a hard time making it because life is so unaffordable. So my top priority is really building housing. 25,000 units of rental building, because 30,000 seniors are waiting for affordable housing. So let's build so that people don't have to worry about having a very unaffordable life.
Anna Bailao.
Affordability is my priority. That's why, as mayor, I'll be focused on fixing services like the TTC, so I can make sure that they get to work on time, they can pick up their kids on time, they don't have to pay the extra fees, making sure that our city services are working to make people's lives easier and more affordable. Also by building housing to make sure that our workers, our youth, and our seniors can continue in our city, and bringing healthcare services to the doors of thousands of seniors in our city. Making life easier and more affordable is my priority.
Josh Matlow.
It starts by fixing our budget. We have a massive budget shortfall. We've got huge budget pressures, and I'm determined to make our city more affordable, to address housing affordability, making our city safer, including improving our TTC, and ensuring that our services that have been declining have a chance to actually keep up and actually support the people that rely on them every single day. I want to fix our city, I want to make it work, and we can't do that if our budget is facing the shortfall and the pressures that it does today.
Bradford.
Well, you asked the question, number one priority, it's affordability. It's cost of living, and when you think of the biggest bill that most folks face each month, it's the rent or it's the mortgage. You know, today the Bank of Canada came out and announced another interest rate hike, and that is going to put pressure on people when it comes to paying their bills. So as an urban planner and someone who has a track record with building housing here in the city, I'm going to make sure that whether you're a senior, a new Canadian, or a young family, you have an affordable place to call home here in Toronto.
Mitzie.
Well, Libby, the city that we want is where young people who grow up here can afford to actually live in our city. So I will be fixing housing, making sure we build more affordable housing for the people who need it in our city. Also fixing things like transit, making it free for seniors who will ride free on transit, getting that ridership up. In Toronto, we want a city that works for everyone, everywhere in our city, a livable city, and I will fix that.
Okay, I've heard a lot about your plans to make the city a better place. That takes money. And first, we have $1 billion deficit we legally have to pay. Now, I've heard most of you claim that you will be the one to get the money from Doug Ford while he remains unmoved. So again, in 30 seconds or less, please tell me where that money will come from, starting with Mitzie Hunter.
Absolutely. So I have a 3 and 6 plan to make sure that we can afford the 6 priorities that I'm putting forward to fix the 6. And that's a 6% property tax increase in line with the current council at 5.5%. But I know affordability is a challenge. So those with a household income of $80,000 or less will be 3%, well below inflation. And for seniors, $80,000 and less in household income, no increase at all. As well as for small business, no increase at all. I want a city that works for everyone everywhere, and that's why my property tax is fair, it's transparent, it's progressive, and it is honest with the voters.
Bradford.
As I just said, another interest rate hike from the Bank of Canada. And while we can't control the Bank of Canada's interest rate hikes, we can control property taxes here in the City of Toronto, and I will keep those at the rate of inflation. You know what? There's a lot of challenges when it comes to City of Toronto's budget. We obviously have to work with the province and the provincial and federal government to get that done, but we also have to get more juice from the squeeze. I will be introducing mayor's mandate letters to have better performance from our top civil servants, and I will also be moving forward with open tendering to save the city $200 million a year in capital costs. Every other municipality in the province does it, and Toronto's going to do that too.
Josh Matlow.
I have a plan at votematlow.ca that shows you how we're going to raise revenue, cut waste, but also I'm going to be going into a negotiating position with Doug Ford from a place of strength. The go along to get along just has not worked. Toronto is poorer than it was before, and frankly, it's left us with maybe strong mayor powers, but a weaker city. I'm going to go in there and make sure that we actually stand up to a bully, get what we need when it comes to transit, operating costs, social housing, and more, and ensure that we have a better deal with Ontario along with the federal government.
And a Bailao.
Libby, half of that budget is actually caused because of the low ridership on the TTC. So if we fix the TTC, we actually can help fixing the budget as well. And that is why I said we need a fair deal, not only a check at the end of the year. The Premier has been coming with a check at the end of it every year. Up to last year, he's been coming with a check. And I'm saying we need predictable, sustainable funding. We need a fair deal for the City of Toronto. And that starts with them taking the responsibility over the Gardner and the DVP. There's 2 provincial highways that 50% of the people riding on those highways are not even from Toronto. And unlike any other city around us, we are the only ones paying for those $200 million. We need that funding to go into the TTC. It's a pragmatic solution. It's a solution that I bring to the table, but it starts with a conversation that we need a fair deal for the City of Toronto. As the Premier says, there's only one taxpayer.
Olivia Chow.
It's not just with Doug Ford. There's the federal government, right? We will join 2,000 municipalities from coast to coast to coast, all saying to Mr. Trudeau that we need a funding source that grow with the economy. In terms of right here in the city, let us ask those, it's only 2% of all the house sales that are buying houses from $5, $10, $20 million, luxury homes, have them pay a little bit more. Okay? And then those that are land speculator, they should, if they leave their homes empty, have them also, with the vacancy tax, go up by 3%.
Mark Saunders.
Great, thank you. First off, as a leader, it's important to prioritize what the needs are for the public. City Hall keeps going astray by listening to the loudest voice in the room. You have my commitment that I will prioritize the money where it needs to go. Public safety is the #1 issue right now, and I hear it when I knock on doors and talk to people. It's affecting small businesses, and it's affecting everything else, including tourism. So prioritizing is the key, not raising the property taxes above the rate of inflation, unlike Ms. Chow, who time after time will not tell you how she's going to raise taxes, but she will raise taxes in a large way.
Chloe Brown.
One of the things that I would like to do around taxes is to tax unproductive lands. We have a lot of empty storefronts, empty lots around our city that could be used for housing and commercial business space. It should be criminal to have empty land in a housing crisis and a business crisis. So there's that plan, making sure that our assets are being properly monetized. We have 80 TTC stations that could be housing apartments and better businesses. We have 100 libraries that could be housing essential workers, community centers. We need to build on top of our assets to raise the purchasing power of the working class, because the working class is suffering and they're the ones that drive business.
Anthony Furey.
Look, I'm going to work with Mr. Ford, with Mr. Trudeau, but more importantly, I'm going to work for the taxpayers, because we've heard a lot of pledges right now about how we can raise taxes, raise revenues. But the bottom line, the budget has ballooned in recent years. $10 billion. 10 years ago now, it's $16 billion. So nobody can tell me there's not an opportunity to do a program review, a spending review, which is what I'm going to start doing day one in the mayor's office, because quite frankly, I think it's disrespectful to taxpayers to not first look at the books before you even begin to talk about tax increases.
Okay, now to the wider debate. I will address each question to a particular candidate. Please answer concisely and let the others respond respectfully without talking over each other. I do have a buzzer. And let me move on to the next question when it's time. So here we go. There is a general sense of decline and malaise in our city, overflowing garbage. Public spaces have been taken over by drug dealing and by those suffering from addictions and homelessness. I've seen people, sorry to say, defecating in city parking lots. There is random deadly violence on the TTC and on the streets. People are wary about taking a walk and letting their kids use public transit. So realistically, how are you going to fix that? Olivia.
Right. You're talking about public disorder and people on the street. You're right, because the shelters are full. And what we're seeing now is that the people that are homeless have to be at TTC, in the subways, libraries, parks, on the street. We need to, after a decade of not building housing, this is what's happening. So we need to, as City of Toronto, come back to build housing. Right? We used to build 32,000 units of housing, and then it stopped for a whole decade. We're seeing the impact of it on the street. So that's why I said, let's come back, build the housing, and also have the shelters and have rent supplements so that those homeless people have a place to go.
Josh, you want to go?
Yes. However, as we... Oh, was that like proactive?
No, oh. Okay.
Testing.
Okay.
Computer didn't like you.
Exactly, yeah. Speaking of being proactive, a good segue. Yes, we need to increase our shelter capacity. We also need to change the environments in our shelters so that they're actually safe places that people want to go. We need more outreach. We need rental supplements, I agree. But we also need to ensure that we do things to address the root causes of a lot of the illness, whether it be addiction, mental health, people who really don't see opportunity to have housing, and opportunities, whether it be employment or if you're a youth at risk and you don't see the right path in life. So there is much more work that we need to do. Yes, we need to react and we need to respond well, but we also need to ensure that we do the hard work now and invest in our youth and our communities to ensure that they're more resilient, healthy, and safe, and therefore we prosper much more if we do it that way.
Okay, we'll get there, and I'm going to have numbers on that later on, but go ahead, on this side of the room.
You spoke about the disorder, the random crime, and most of it has been caused by City Hall. So every person here running for the mayor's office caused the situation to get to this.
You're the police
So
chief.
first and
you were the
foremost,
police
no,
chief.
literally, you know, here we go again. It's a nice distraction, but at the end of the day, City Hall makes a decision. City Hall funds. So you can't give the police a zero budget and not put other resources out there to make things work. The bottom line, City Hall turned a blind eye to the neighborhoods.
Yeah, but we're
people
not
that
gonna
live
cut
there.
our way
when it comes
to solving these
the needles
challenges.
and syringes in parks, in schoolyards, everywhere, not cleaning them up. And number two, you know, small businesses are leaving. And they're talking about the decay of those particular neighborhoods. They're opening the door and seeing things like dead bodies and human
But
defecation.
we all know the
because City
problems.
Hall
We need
has
to
not
address
looked
the
after it.
solutions, Mark. It's about solutions.
So, Libby, I did a press conference this morning at Kensington Market in front of a school where the school director and some parents joined and stood beside me for it. And they were talking about the scenes of real carnage that they've experienced. People in the drug crisis swearing obscenities at 4-year-olds. You mentioned public defecation, that's going on. A needle, a place where you're supposed to put needles after they've been used, sitting in front of the school open so the kids could pull them out. I have said as mayor, we're going to say no. This is a time for choosing. And the choice is, do we look like Seattle and downtown Vancouver? I'm the only one saying no. It
Yeah, but
starts now.
how are you going to do that if you take away the resources that we need to support people who are vulnerable?
I'm not,
so
I've
that
said.
they can get well. You know,
I can answer the
one of
question for you
One of the
easily.
plan that I have is actually a mental health and wellness strategy for our city and dealing with homelessness in our city so that we can move people into supportive housing, wraparound supports, mental health, wellness, so that people can
we
be
need to
well
build-
in our
allocated
city.
for the
We've
funds
got to
allocated-
invest in order for that
Let
to
Brad
happen.
speak. He
Well,
hasn't
Mitzie asked me a
spoken
question.
yet.
I want to answer. The funds allocated for the injection sites already are going to be retooled to treatment centers. And I know the province is going to be a willing partner with me to get that done.
We
and
need to
help
address
these
the
people.
I
causes
agree
of the
with you on that
challenges.
part.
And you
The
know
province
what?
needs to play a role.
I think that over the past number of years, we've gone from 6,000 shelter beds to 9,000 shelter beds. They are perpetually full. 30% of those shelter beds on any given night are filled with refugees who land here in the city of Toronto. It's time for the federal government to start paying the bill. I feel like they've taken us out for dinner and walked away from that bill. The real answer is not more shelters. The real answer is supportive housing.
They do pay, they just pay late,
Yeah,
right?
They
They do
We have
eventually
to
pay.
build supportive housing.
May I say
Go ahead, Chloe.
Yeah, please.
One of the biggest issues is that the majority of people that are unhoused are people with disabilities. If we cannot build accessible housing to support people with disabilities, they will stay on the street. We've lost psychiatric beds since the 1950s, and this group continues to avoid the fact that they're not building for people that are disabled. We're an ableist city. If you're disabled, you get thrown out, and this is why we're seeing people with complex learning disabilities and advanced mental health issues on the street, because you're not providing enough healthcare workers, social workers, and you're not providing the apartments for the working class who deliver these services.
I'm not
And so
disagreeing
it's
with
not
that.
just.
I haven't
Which is
spoken. Can I
why-
just say
please,
something?
please, go
I just
ahead.
want to say, you can see how complex an issue this is, and we need the federal and provincial government at the table. There's
It's
no question
not
about
complex.
it.
It's a willingness to build for people with disabilities.
As a city, we need to double down on the efforts to create the supportive
But
housing.
we can't
we
do
need
more
to
of the
double down.
same.
We
The
need to.
more of the
Can I?
same
Can I
is
speak? I
not-
didn't interrupt
is
you,
not
Mitzie.
gonna help.
Mitzie,
More
I
of
didn't
the same
interrupt her.
is not gonna help.
We need to have the mobile mental health clinics to do the outreach, to bring the people inside the supportive.
Which we do have. I started that in Scarborough. They go to all the
But again-
high needs buildings
But
to
again-
provide services
We need
on
those
site.
supports. We
With-
don't
with
have them
all-
out there in our subway stations, in our parks, in our streets, to make sure that we're bringing those people. We're offering the treatment. We're offering the supports. We have
unfortunately-
them in the supportive
Last 30
housing.
seconds.
That's what we
Clear to
need.
see
I am
what we've been
talking
doing
about-
is not working.
I am
So
talking
we
about-
need to
That's
do
right.
Okay,
more of
stop
mobile
talking
crisis
over each
response
other,
teams.
please.
We need to do more supportive housing. You know, in my community, I built 59 supportive housing units for seniors, and that's given them the dignity of a roof over their head, wraparound support so they can be successful in the community. But that's just the starting point. We
I think
have to
one-
do
Okay,
more of that.
last
across
10
the city.
seconds. We're
My
moving
plan,
on to the next.
my plan speaks to the root cause too, but the question is about right now. Housing's not going to be built for years, and right now it's the disorder and the random crime that is the issue. And there has to be a multitude of solutions to do it. I have those solutions. Time after
Name
time,
them.
City Hall has spent money elsewhere dealing with the loudest voice in the room. I will change that and make sure the money is put where it needs to go, and that is to keep our communities safe.
Okay, wait. We're moving along. CARP's polling shows that the city's seniors are not wrapped up in their own specific problems. They share the same concerns as the rest of us. In order of importance, CARP members are worried about TTC service and infrastructure, housing shortages, budget and taxes, homelessness and drug addiction, policing and crime management, and a Toronto seniors strategy. And now I'd like to turn things over to Anthony Quinn, CARP's Chief Community Officer, for his round.
Thank you very much, Libby. I am here representing 40,000 voting CARP members in Toronto, and I was delighted to hear from a few candidates that seniors were part of your priority for the city. But I wanted to talk first about the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation, celebrating its first anniversary June 1st. But the CEO, Tom Hunter, has said that after a year of a listening tour, they're not at the solution stage yet. What can you do as mayor to get the action from the bureaucrats to ensure that there are no more listening tours, but there's action taking place? Libby, I'll let you pick the first speaker, please.
Great question.
Okay, who wants to take that? Oh, everyone. Okay, yes, Olivia.
Yeah, we used to build housing through TCXA, and yeah, we need to come back to building housing, but on top of it, we need to let seniors able to stay at their own homes. So wraparound service, which is homemaker services, which we have, we need to expand it. And then the PSWs, which is personal support
I'm gonna answer the
workers.
question.
Meals on Wheels.
If I may,
And
Just let her finish the sentence.
Wait. Yeah, and that kind of service allowed seniors, with the help of some of the nonprofit organizations, provide the services right at their home, so they don't have to go to long-term care homes, right? When they have to go to long-term care homes, because the City of Toronto runs 10 of it, let us have more so that there is seamless transition.
I'm going to answer
That is what the seniors can do.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm going to answer your question, and it was about accountability. We heard about the listening tour of over a year, and we're not delivering results. When I am mayor, I am going to issue mayor's mandate letters, publicly accountable, transparent documents that outline the key deliverables for staffs, the heads of our different divisions and agencies, and we're going to hold them to account. I used to work at City Hall in the Chief Planner's office, and I can tell you there was a lack of accountability, divisional silos, and this pervasive attitude that whatever doesn't get done today will get done tomorrow.
So you were part of the problem in the planner's
City of Toronto
office?
cannot wait. The City of Toronto cannot wait. Our seniors cannot wait any longer, and that is why we need better transparency and accountability from our civil servants. In your job, at your workplace, you are held to account. You're held to account for budgets, for timelines, and for deliverables. And we need a culture change at City Hall to stand that up and make sure that we are actually delivering services for people, including our seniors, to make sure that this is a livable city for everybody.
Now, I wasn't going to jump in here, but I have a number on this, on the Toronto Housing Authority. So a year ago, a CEO was hired for $160,000, and he welcomed 301 staffers who have been on full salary. So this is why, Anthony...
Only 300 seniors found new housing in that same year.
Well, exactly. So why is the money, as you said, stuck in the bureaucracy?
I just want to say that, I visited a hotel at Kennedy and 401. 50% of the people, of the 450 people there, are seniors who are unhoused. So it's not a question of the need. It's a question of this group making sure that we find appropriate seniors housing to make sure people aren't stuck in our shelter system, which also costs as well. It's like a double and triple.
I'm just saying there's tons of money. Where's it going?
I'd like to contribute, if I may. So, as you know, I initiated the Toronto Senior Strategy. It's an issue that I care deeply about, as I'm sure all of you do too. And it's not one or the other, it really is all of the things that we've been discussing. So first of all, when it comes to accountability, when it comes to community housing, yes, we need to hold them to account to deliver and make sure that they have adequate investments to actually keep units in good repair and increase capacity. We also need to make sure that we improve long-term care so that they're not like warehouses, but they're emotion-focused places that people want to live in and get the support that they need.
Yeah.
May I please just one more thing? people want to age in place.
Yep.
So we also need to plan communities so that it's realistic to be able to do that, so people can live in their homes as long as they choose to, but they need, whether it be health services, grocery stores.
But Libby, and that's why one of my first policies that I launched in this campaign was actually a program to bring healthcare and wellness to the seniors. We had a very, very, very good vaccination program with hundreds of ambassadors out there. I am actually transferring that to have that being brought to the doorstep of seniors so that then we can have mobile clinics with public health and with paramedics.
Anna's right. Paramedicine.
Everyone is
We
making
need
it
preventive, we need to support on our seniors at their doorstep, we need to keep them at home. That worked.
Listen, and I'm glad that you're having this town hall because it's very clear. Everyone is making this sound like this is a new issue. City Hall has recognized this issue for a long time. It wasn't until a pandemic when things got exposed, and again, the window dressing came on. We have to make sure that the investments are there long before, where we allocate the funds, especially towards our seniors, when we see the rate of seniors increasing 6 times faster than any other demographic. So the funding has to be put there. Everybody here made these decisions.
You have no funding plan, Mark.
You've never prioritized.
Well, show us your funding plan. Show us a piece of paper.
Leadership.
Show us anything. Mark, show us something that demonstrates
Well, but then show us what you're cutting.
You have a plan.
Bike lanes.
You said you're going to cut IT services, and that's all you've said you do.
I did not say that.
Can we cut the squabbling?
So
what I said,
show us what your funding plan is.
What I said was
Go for it.
reducing
I think we should stay close. Go for it.
I think Trump's
Because there's no solutions happening right here.
Okay.
Okay, this buzzer is faulty. Okay. Yeah, it's your segment. I'm sorry.
You said 30,000 seniors on the waiting list. There's 35,000. I checked the numbers this morning. It's gone up. And we'll move next to long-term care, which Josh had mentioned.
Yes.
2,400 seniors in Toronto in 10 buildings, relatively small. But Toronto has come up with an industry-leading program called CARE TO, which is budgeted to pay for emotion-centered care in Toronto's long-term care home. If Toronto can implement that across the board, that will change long-term care in Canada. So will you commit as the mayor to continue funding that program and expanding it? By the year 2041, there will be triple the amount of seniors over age 75. So I'd like to ask Mr. Saunders first, will you commit to that?
Absolutely. Government of the day has neglected it and caused this and made this more of an exponential problem. And it speaks to prioritizing, Josh.
Mark,
it's
you
not
just
about
heard
just
that we
getting more money.
created a program that is leading.
Yeah.
I also want to say,
Mark, I literally,
so not true.
Mark,
that's why they've identified
I moved the
it
motion
as a
on
problem.
this.
but I
Josh,
wanna
with
say-
all due respect, that's why they've identified it as a problem. And are you going to commit?
But the problem, Mark, is going to get worse. Let me tell you why it's going to get
not
worse for long-term care in Toronto. Because Premier Ford has a compliance of long-term care homes to move to a different standard. And those owners are selling those homes.
No,
So we are at risk. We are at risk of losing. I just want to finish. This is a really important point. This is an important point.
Primary issue is shortage.
This is really
Anthony,
important
this is
going to create
We're not
even
talking about
more.
CARE TO, and I think
why don't you
Anthony, it's about long-term care beds in the city.
Anthony.
So
Thank you.
we'll ask Chloe, and Chloe, please face the camera. Don't face me. And just so you know that how will you commit to taking care of Toronto's long-term care issue as we expand the number of seniors in the next 20 years?
We need to end age discriminatory housing. We shouldn't have long-term care houses to just warehouse our seniors. We need a campus of care approach. There's currently one in Parkdale that's being run by the University Healthcare Network. They bought a total of, I believe, 40 to 50 properties, and they're working with the University Healthcare Network to house workers that will deliver the care to seniors, and they're living together. We should stop funding long-term care because at the end of the day, our seniors should be able to live with our young people. Our seniors can provide childcare. It's a matter of stacking healthcare, elder care, childcare, all in one residential building so people are living where the services are and that the nurses are providing home and community care within proximity to neighborhoods.
Can tell you that home and community.
we need home care so people can stay longer. But then I look at my dad. He had dementia. He started wandering. He can't live at home anymore. He has to go to long-term care.
Parkdale's creating dementia
but hang on, so I
villages.
said, wait, he can open the door and then wander, and police end up picking him up. But listen, what we can do is to say to the province, because people are selling those private homes.
Yeah,
Long-term
thank you,
care.
Olivia, because I want to
Let's have
finish
a
my
long-term-
point on that.
Let us ask the province to give us the first right of refusal for the
Actually-
City of Toronto, and then we can then pick up those homes with partners with the provincial government.
Okay,
and then
so
we
in-
could
so I have an action. I have an action.
Libby, we can.
Anthony.
Josh had that file for the last decade.
Yes.
And we're
Anthony?
still in trouble, so Josh, please defend your record on this.
So, no, I appreciate that. So, just to be clear, it wasn't so much my file, but I initiated the motion at council to create CARE-TO. The file was very competent and wonderful staff who've been working on this. And there are funding reasons why a lot of things haven't happened, but the reality is that we are now piloting at Lakeshore Lodge an emotion-focused care approach, which takes us away from the warehouse approach and really creates an environment that's supportive of the PSWs and workers and supportive of the residents. I'm going to be expanding that throughout the city. This is going to be a priority for the City of Toronto. And ultimately, some of the things that I disagree with not funding long-term care at all. I think that's the wrong approach. But I do agree with the campus of care approach. And ultimately, if people have options to live at home for as long as they choose to, or like my father, who also, he has Alzheimer's, and he does need the care of long-term care to be able to support him.
Yeah, you know,
then I think there are
you know
options.
what?
But the city can take even a different role as well. I've worked with different communities, including my own community, with nonprofits to provide city land. I also was able to not charge development charges because we are losing long-term care beds in the city of Toronto and in
because there's
downtown.
no action here
working
on the
from the
part of
Ismaili
the
community,
existing
working with the
council
Rikai
to
Center, working
protect
with the
those
Portuguese
long-term care
community.
homes.
We're
I
actually
have raised that at this table.
building
So just, I want to
new
offer
bed
the
licenses
solution
and
that
bringing
I've
the table.
already put forward.
Mitzi, she was right.
Libby, can I say one thing? I think
One
this
thing.
speaks to the fact that the fact we're not able to provide for our seniors and so many other priorities is that we've gotten ahead of ourselves in terms of spending on all these pet projects and frills that are not what
You
residents
call
and
seniors pet
taxpayers
projects, Anthony?
It's just that
I just
you
said
guys
the
have been
opposite. I said
sleeping
we
at the
can't
switch
invest in
because
seniors
the problem
because
has
throughout
gotten
your
worse.
tenure
So
at
we were
City Hall,
talking
you
about
created so
long-term
many
care.
pet projects.
We're talking about long-term.
And I said we're going to do a
I just said I
non-core
created
service hiring
3
freeze. We're going to do
long-term
the
care
program review, the
homes.
spending review, to bring back to basics, to fix the
Toronto
potholes,
only has
to get the
10,000
transit
care
going,
homes.
to respect our seniors.
Anthony.
That's invest and reallocate on
Anthony.
priorities. That's what we got to do here. We got to respect taxpayers and seniors.
So Anthony, maybe I would like to get you on record then. Will you commit to extending the long-term, the CARE-TO program in Toronto as budgeted last year? There's a hole for funding. We're going to have to find the money. Will you commit to long-term care for seniors in Toronto?
And I'm going to be able to commit to doing it by porting out all of these frill projects and
It's a
putting
yes
them
or
to
no
priorities like seniors, like fixing the potholes, like getting transit moving again. We got to go back to basics, folks. Everyone's saying things are not working in this city. We got all the frills. We're paying many millions to clear the bike lanes in January and February when no one's using them, and yet we don't have the basics to be able to care for people like our seniors. So yes, I can make that commitment, manage the budget to make it happen. That's my promise to everyone.
I think out of everything, what I like the most in true political form, 5 minutes ago, Josh put his hand up saying, I own the file, and as soon as it was a problem, I didn't own the file.
That's what you do as the chief of police as well. And one time you're saying, I'm the chief of police, I'm the only one that can do public policy.
That is-
And then you say, no, that's not me.
I would put my record against yours on any given day.
I have not been mayor the last few years.
We're moving on to my last question.
All of the insiders are deflected.
And I'm going to start this one for Brad as the town city planner in your background. Age-friendly city, something Toronto has committed to over the last decade. That means the city is accessible to anyone from any age. But the costs associated with that continue to be pulled out of the city budget. How will you commit to making sure that Toronto is accessible for Canadians as they age?
Accessibility is such an important issue, and as you've rightly pointed out, as the demographics shift in this city, we need to make sure that we are prioritizing that. The issues that were identified off the top, I think Libby walked us through, transit, housing, getting around our city, all of these things relate to a more accessible city and how we build that infrastructure to support it. Look, we've had a good conversation about long-term care homes. We need more housing options for our seniors so that they can age in place, so that they can stay in their homes longer and that they have options to downsize too. That is really important, and that's why we move forward with multiplex here in the City of Toronto. Generational housing, so that families can live, seniors can live with their children. There's options for childcare, all of the things that we're doing with garden suites, laneway suites, multiplex. This is how we help alleviate the pressure on long-term care. This is how we make sure that there are more options for people when they need it, and we keep people in their homes longer. So
That's important.
Can I just add
quick?
You know, when I did the
comment here?
laneway housing, when we were having
supportive comment
Libby,
here.
when I did the laneway housing.
Can I listen to my producer? We're taking a quick break. We'll be right back on the other side. CARP mayoral debate on Fight Back. Now, when it comes to homelessness, encampments, and addictions, some of the candidates and advocates keep telling us we are just not doing enough to get at the root causes. But by percentage, the biggest spending increase in the last budget went to the Office of Emergency Management, most of it to provide funding for 10 positions to support the management of encampments. That budget is already slated to grow by 29.5% next year and more the year after that. While we hired and gave raises to well-paid staffers, people died there, around the corner from this building, either in illegal fires or from overdoses. And while the mayor and others wanted the encampments to come down so that residents could use the public space, the ombudsman of the city, whose budget was increased by nearly $1 million, declared that doing this was trampling on the rights of those encamped. So whose rights come first, Josh?
It's not. I actually disagree respectfully with the premise of your question. We all have rights, and tents are clearly not the answer to homelessness, but nor is beating people up in a park and then just telling them to go into a safe indoor space that they don't believe is safe, because it's not effective and it's not humane. First of all, the state should never commit violence against its own citizens, no matter who they are. But I also the efficacy, like look at what happened. most people in the parks didn't just go into a place that they didn't feel unsafe in. They went to other parks. They went to laneways. They went to under bridges and ravines. So it doesn't solve the problem. The real way to deal with it is to make sure that we increase outreach to those individuals. We make sure that we increase the capacity of our shelters, improve the environment of our shelters so that they genuinely are safe. We make sure that we do have rental supplements. We ensure that there's a pathway to housing, that there's supportive housing, addiction treatment, and mental health support for those individuals who need it, and ultimately take a housing first approach so that we're working with people rather than at people. So, it was ineffective, and actually the money that they spent...
I do agree with your question, the
money
premise
that
of your question, and I'm going to put a families
The money
first
gets
policy.
stuck in the bureaucracy,
I'm
is
gonna
what
put-
I
It
see.
wasn't stuck.
I will do a families first policy where we do clear these parks, because as the father of 3 small kids, I know what it's like to go to these playgrounds, find needles on the slide and say, sorry kids, we gotta move on. The number of people who are talking about this, a CBC host was just tweeting at a number of us candidates, what are you gonna do about this issue? And I said, well, I'm the one on record saying, we're gonna clear the parks. We're a compassionate society, yes, but we can't allow our parks to be dominated by one set of individuals. So as mayor, we are going to clear the parks, and we're gonna put families first, not last, like Josh is saying.
Encampments are not
Anthony, what is
safe
your
and not
solution?
healthy. They're not safe and not healthy for anybody staying
Exactly.
there, for the neighborhoods, and we need to start from that premises that people cannot live in the
Let her finish her sentence.
live in the neighborhood.
Mitzi, if possible.
But we need to make sure that we have a housing first approach. I had an encampment in my community, and we brought the supports. We brought
Families first.
security. We brought security as well to deal, and we had staff there to deal with the residents and to make sure that we had that connection. And we housed people directly from that park into homes, and we did it quickly, and we cleaned the park, and to this day, we have maintained to clean it. And that's the approach that we need.
And by the way,
It's a
people like
housing
Diana
first
Chan
approach,
McNally and
and
Zoe
act
Dodd and
quickly,
Kathy Crow
and encampments
really
are
did
not
support
not
that
place
kind of
for people
approach.
to...
It is an absolute disgrace that we are in a state in this city where homelessness is at such a crisis. And we have seniors, we have 10% of the people on the street are young people.
Yep.
And we have to change that. So, we've got to treat people with human dignity, which means
Absolutely.
that they deserve a place to live. So in my plan,
And
it's
families deserve
2,000
access to public
supportive
space.
housing
They do.
unit
And
with
that's why
the
we need to
mental
act
health supports,
quickly.
with the wraparound
Anthony, both
care
are true.
to keep people housed, safely housed. And we've got to make sure that
So we're going to wait, 10 years until you
no,
allow us to access the parks? That's what I'm hearing right now.
Mark
No,
is
not at all.
next.
2,000 supportive housing units. We go out and we acquire those units. We go out and we provide the supports that are needed.
So the carnage at South
Right?
Kensington Market
The
School
longer
has to
people stay on
continue
the streets, the
until
more
when?
ill health they will experience. Right? So if you
Mark,
want to
we gotta
clear,
clean up our
if you want to
streets.
clear the
Yeah,
parks,
just offload
we've
there.
got to make sure that we provide people with the
The-
support and the care that they need.
It is a huge issue right now because so many people have complained day after day for years about the other effects that have happened with these encampments. The calls for fires, over 780 calls since 2020 for that. But here's
Biggest budget increases in the city for fire.
for bureaucrats, and that's what the problem is. The money has not been going to the communities. You've caused this problem. You turned a blind eye when so many communities said day after day, this is an issue, help us, help us, help us. City Hall did
police
not
budget
respond.
has gone up by 12%
The police
over a
did not
decade.
respond.
This is your wheelhouse.
This is about dealing
Let's
with it
be
properly.
let's be serious.
The encampments do have to go, but the city did not pay attention. That's where the anger is coming from. If you're going to create the problem and turn a blind eye, it leads to this burning issue right now. They have to go properly, but it has to be a
budget has
priority.
gone up, and
But
you
it has
haven't
to be a
advocated
priority.
for
I
these
gotta tell you,
solutions.
a big
With all
factor
due respect,
in
Chloe, I've
homelessness
been
is
government
mental
policing for
health.
3 years.
You
We're
have been
talking
coming
we're
out of
talking
this
for years
pandemic.
past. Yes, for
Coming
years.
out of this
So, but
pandemic,
Do I
thank you very
have
much.
to hit the buzzer again?
No, Libby, no.
No.
But coming out of this pandemic, the issue of mental health and mental wellness has skyrocketed.
I know,
right?
but-
and so as
But
a
what
city,
they're saying is the
what
money's going
have we
towards
done
more
to
bureaucracy
respond?
instead of
We
money
have
going
not.
in towards
It's not-
the
People are
It's so
falling
simplistic.
out
on
of
the
housing
ground.
Libby,
and
it's
living
all
in
the
our
agencies.
parks, living on
that
TTC.
happens a lot.
No, what I mean is it's just so simplistic
Just
just to
another
say
layer.
that the money went to bureaucracy.
That's not
But
for me.
But it did go.
Wait a minute.
But it did.
That
getting some
buzzer
assistance later,
is
Libby.
from on high.
Another layer.
So we have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the other side of it.
That was a good segment.
What?
Really important. That's a good segment. How do we
But-
do that?
Welcome back. Drilling down on seniors' health. When I heard Anna Bailau's plan, it sounded very familiar because bringing health services to older people in cooperation with resources from hospitals, public health, and paramedics. Now that happened really quickly and effectively during the pandemic. We already talked about John Tory starting this the Office of Seniors Housing at great expense. That was partly supposed to do that. Now, they are supposed to do that in Toronto Community Housing with the expensive CEO, the 300 people. I know you're talking about naturally occurring housing. In my neighborhood, the Toronto Community Seniors Housing building is right next to the private housing, presumably.
And it might be both natural
and so the question that I have with all of this, we did it already. We did it with other money. Why do we have to throw more money at it?
But we did it, and it was so successful on the vaccination clinic. We should build on that success. We did it so well to bring vaccines to people in Toronto.
Right. Why do we have to spend more money on it?
No. But we're using that system. We're using that system of the ambassadors to say, we don't have now the mobile clinics.
It's about supporting naturally occurring retirement communities.
Right.
We've got buildings where there's a large demographic of older adults, and rather than them having to go and seek out assistance or community building, social cohesion, there are ways to actually provide it to them, including using common rooms.
Josh, for all your support.
We agree on this.
Organize
Yeah,
to help organize
and also
coordinate
food
it, right?
security.
We have to throw a lot more money at it.
So my plan
But
is,
if you look at say Yihong Foundation, they have 200 social workers. They raised all their money privately, but they are asking the city to partner with them. Just add a little bit more so they could do even more. So we're not saying that we would put in 100%. No, it's a bit of coordination. It's a bit of partnership so that they have wraparound where there is Meals on Wheels and having a nurse to take care of like 40 seniors. So that is
So
happening.
you're saying we don't have to throw a lot more money?
Not a whole lot, but
We
you
need
still
to
have a
bring
bit to
Yeah, and we
coordinate
need
it.
to, there's a lot of isolation in our seniors as well. We need to
Yes.
do preventive health care. There's a lot of food insecurity as
Programs
well.
like Oasis.
My plan has a $10 million for food insecurity as well, because there's a lot of seniors
But are these the
that are
pet projects
suffering from them.
that Mark and Anthony would cut? I mean,
Seniors at the door tell me they don't want their property taxes going up through the roof, and you've
They
committed
get
to
an
doing
exemption.
just that.
and seniors and others tell me that aside from the hyperbole that you guys do that have led to the decline of this city, they want people to come forward with answers, real solutions, real leadership, rather than
Libby,
this
Anthony is right on the property taxes as well.
This hyperbole that gets us in
There's
trouble.
seniors that are homeowners and there's seniors that live in these buildings. And Anthony is right. People don't want and are struggling with affordability issues, and we cannot afford.
That's why under my plan, the taxes will not rise for seniors over, this tax will not rise for seniors over
If I may,
household income under
I would say,
80,000.
Mitzi, if I may, I would say that
Kind of all related.
we need to find better ways to work with the not-for-profit sector. We've seen the success of the models. We saw that through the pandemic.
That's
We
right.
saw that with vaccination. We saw that for seniors with the paramedicine program. We can do that, but there is so much red tape and bureaucratic barriers at City Hall. You talk to folks in the not-for-profit sector that are supplying these services, they say it's
I gotta
difficult
say,
to do
Libby,
that. Can I
healthcare
finish?
workers
Can I
can afford to
finish
live
my
in
thought,
Finish.
Mitzi? Please?
Let him finish.
So we have to remove those barriers and let these not-for-profit service providers do the work in a culturally relevant way in the communities where they have foundations and connections and help in partnership deliver those services.
So
the
the
cost
way-
of
so,
living,
Libby,
the cost of living
to
is on
answer
the
your
rise. I'm
question,
going to continue.
let
the
him
cost
finish
of
his
living
thought.
is on the rise, and seniors are strapped with a fixed income. So we can't just keep going back to the taxpayer time and time again with new programs and new additional services without a way to pay
This is
for it.
perfect.
This is
So
about partnership.
What I want to
with the
say,
folks who
because you
are
have
already
talked about
providing those
partnerships, we
services.
need partnerships with nonprofits, but the city itself has existing resources. I agree with you, Libby.
We have a $16 billion
we do
operating
fund
budget. That's a lot of money.
paramedics.
And
We
we
do
need to find a way to
health
make sure that
services
we're
in the
spending
city,
that in an
and so
effective
I'm
way
now
where
going
there is a way to do this
to.
more
I am
efficiently.
going to.
I've got-
I'm going to
Wait,
just say.
I need a way to do this more efficiently.
Now, just a minute. I waited for Brad. I do want to have an
There is a
opportunity
very clear way,
to
and actually
add to
Brad-
the
Brad-
discussion.
Brad brought up a good point,
Josh,
though.
I just waited
okay.
for Brad to
But
finish
Brad-
his thought. So I want to add to this because I do believe that you are asking us, do we have the existing resources? And I agree with you. We do have the existing resources, but are we prioritizing those resources and getting them into the communities
I
and the
actually have an answer to
neighborhoods
that.
where
It's a real
they
solution.
need the help and the support? And I have an
Yeah.
answer to that as well.
I haven't
Because
heard it
in
yet.
my own riding, there were seniors who lived in a seniors building who did not have access to those services. And what we did, we actually retrofitted a TTC bus. We brought together health services as well as social service, and we brought that right to that building
yeah,
to
that's how
deliver
Brad-
care
Brad-
and to deliver the supports
Libby,
that
Even the
seniors
program I'm talking
needed.
about, it'll be served.
That seniors need.
Aside from
Well,
speeches,
that is happening.
Okay.
It's already
aside
been
from-
piloted
there
in
actually is a solution
happening.
that Brad
Maybe because
and
you haven't been at City
Okay.
Hall.
I have
but,
visited those
You haven't been at
programs,
City Hall,
Anna.
so maybe you
I
don't
have
know.
visited
It's
those
not- it's not
programs.
happening.
Have a
The seniors
conversation with everyone
need
just
the
talking about
wraparound
Okay,
care.
this is not
If we
useful.
could just kind of all have
This
a
is-
conversation, give everyone the floor.
And there's a solution that I think,
Yeah.
like a lot of us actually agree on, that I just wanted to kind of state because it wasn't said.
Agree on?
So yes.
10 seconds.
So Brad and Anna brought up, and this is something that's in my platform too, and I fully agree with. We need to expand paramedicine. We need to have paramedics visit proactively.
Absolutely. We already pay for them. That's exactly what I was saying.
Mitzie,
It was my first policy.
Okay.
Olivia.
For supporting my idea,
and by
Josh.
doing that, and this is where Brad may have been going to as far as the budget, you actually relieve capacity
Josh,
on
I'm
911.
moving on.
No wonder they
911.
got
I'm
nothing done
moving
at City
on.
Hall.
There's been a lot of finger pointing, no kidding,
That was actually
about
agreement.
how much taxes have to go up and who has to pay them. We want a clear idea. Please don't make me give you a 20-second timeline. Mitzie, you are planning a tax break for a huge number of people who earn under $80,000 based on a program that exists now. Current counselors that I talk to every week say it's a tiny initiative based on the honor system. We don't have access to the right data, and it can't be scaled up, at least not without throwing a huge amount of money at it. So let's start there.
Well, I'll definitely bring more competence to the administration of this program. So currently, seniors up to a household income of $55,000, they get exempt from tax increases. I have raised that threshold under my 3 and 6 plan.
That's a deferral. That's a deferral.
of the taxes.
So under my
Taxes are
plan,
still paid.
seniors who have a household income of $80,000 or below, they will be able to eliminate or defer their taxes all together. And
Respectfully,
that is
this
the
doesn't
commitment
add up.
that is the commitment
Respectfully, this doesn't
that
add
is the
up.
commitment that I have
yeah.
that is the
Okay.
commitment that I have made to the seniors.
Okay, we've heard
Respectfully,
it.
this
We've
doesn't
heard
add
it,
up.
Mitzie.
So if you're going to cut taxes for folks under $80,000, if
Yeah,
you suggested,
saving them $1,500
right.
a
And so
year.
you're blowing an even bigger hole in the budget. There's a difference between eliminating taxes and deferring taxes. Right now, we have a program where taxes are deferred for seniors, but eventually those bills get paid. And your policy of rating our capital reserves
I want,
to balance the budget
make sure
is like
that our
emptying out your
seniors who are on a
RRSP
fixed
to go and
income,
buy milk.
okay, they
It's
can
not a
afford to live in
sustainable
this city. They can afford to live in
and
this city.
if we went forward with that plan, our capital projects wouldn't get built, the potholes wouldn't be
Actually,
built,
it's all
we
it's
wouldn't
factored
get,
in.
It's not
It's not factored in.
Hold up all your
It's
plans.
factored
You
in.
can wave
It's
them around,
factored
but it
in.
doesn't make
And
it
just
real.
Libby, can I just say something? You know, everybody, there's an affordability crisis in this city. We had 7%
Yes.
property tax increase last year. You know, we're having candidates here. Olivia, you still haven't given us an answer how much you're going to increase
20%.
taxes in the city of Toronto under your leadership. But the
Okay.
reality is, with the 1.5...
Olivia, you've been accused of hiding a
types of things,
20%
yes.
tax
Yeah.
increase. Is that right?
Yeah, no, it's not true at all. Absolutely.
what's the truth?
It's
Tell us
not
what it
Okay,
is.
what it
she's
is.
telling us.
It's
Let her talk. Let her talk.
20%. Okay.
What is it?
a great
Wait,
point.
wait.
Be honest with Torontonians.
You know? Yes. Well, hang on a second, folks. Before Mr. Rob Ford was elected, for decades, the City of Toronto would look at what people needs are. Look at the service. Then they say, all right, this is the budget. They start with the people. Then they put the budget together. Then they look at alternate
But that is
ways
Okay,
of
okay.
No, right.
Hang on.
You have
And
a
then-
tentative number.
And
The number.
then
Of
course not.
they do it. Then they say, all right, and we look at alternate forms of funding.
But Olivia,
right?
if you're going to
And
do
then-
just
wait,
the
wait, wait,
1.5
wait,
billion,
hang on
it's a
a second.
39% property tax increase. That's what staff said during the budget.
I know.
And
I
you've
also
added
So what is your
20%
ceiling?
campaign
Wait,
promises
what is
on
your
top of
ceiling?
that.
Finish,
So you're
I
either
just
going to break your
halfway.
promises or you're going to
Okay.
break
You
your
let
promises.
her
Finish her
Let-
statement.
let
Like
her
it's basic
talk.
classroom etiquette.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
all right. So,
Olivia,
so
do you have a tentative
Yes,
number?
so after you look at the people first budget, look at the alternative, then you go to the
I know,
federal
but
and provincial
people don't
government.
want to
But do you
vote
know,
arbitrary unless they have
let me
an
ask you
idea.
this
They don't want it
question.
so arbitrary.
We do not know what is the interest rate, okay? Because I'll tell you why it makes a difference. We have a $50 billion capital budget. How much are we going to be borrowing? How much are we going to use the
you have to
operating
factor that
dollars
in.
for operating,
Okay.
capital?
have to
Libby,
factor that
Libby,
in.
when families
Just
go,
hang
when
on a
families,
second.
There's an
So you
affordability
cannot-
crisis.
So, you know,
I
in
I
9
get
months,
what you're
struggling.
saying,
do you
but
know
people
9 months
want an
from
idea.
now? Do you know 9 months from now?
She has no idea.
That, no, the old way of doing budget, putting an arbitrary number.
Do you think we have
is
to go back to
causing
the
number-
old way?
Well, this is what
Look.
we are all doing.
Okay,
Libby, when-
okay.
The last
Okay.
10 years, the
Olivia,
approach
just a
in the
minute.
last
Hang on,
10
That's
Olivia.
like
years.
saying we have to go
The
back to
last 10
VHS
years
to listen to watch
has
a movie.
caused
We
the
don't have to do that.
affordability crisis
No,
in
you're
this
all
city.
talking at once.
Here we
It
go.
really, okay.
I understand.
the
Another
10
opportunity
the
to
10
answer the question.
In the
Okay,
last
I'm
10
gonna
years,
speak now.
the last 10 years, the way they're doing budgeting has caused this crisis in the city, the affordability crisis, the homelessness crisis. On top of
Okay,
it,
Olivia,
we have a $1 billion budget
Okay.
deficit, which is obviously
Okay,
the
are you
only
asking people to
related.
take it on faith? Because people just want to know
Just be
more or less
I talked
what's
about
it going to be.
a very modest budget.
But what's modest for somebody? It might
modest
not
for
be
somebody who
modest for
collects
The
for
10
pensions?
years that I
mean,
was on the budget committee, okay, the 10 years I was on budget committee, it has always been a modest increase, okay? I've never had to vote for a huge property tax increase.
Let me
okay?
say
I've
this.
always
Libby, let me
wanted
say
to.
this.
refuse to
And
say
the old, because the old way does not work.
put all these promises in the window and figure out how to
It's
pay
called
for it later.
doing
When folks in
people's
Flemington
first
Park or
budgeting.
Thorncliffe, if people are shopping at Costco, it's not just put everything in the basket and then figure it out when you get to the till. That's not how you do it. Families have to prioritize their budgets. They have to live within their means, and City Hall has to do the same. So it's very disingenuous to come out there, put 20% of commitments on the table,
I did
and not
not
be
do
honest
that.
with Torontonians about how high you are going to rocket the tax bill. So are you
But
either
you
going to
can
break your
clear this
campaign
up
promises,
right
or
now.
are you going to jack the taxes? You got to be honest with
Except,
people.
Brad, there is, if I have a coupon, right, that's different, right?
So you got a
So
coupon
when
at
you're-
City Hall? What is that? Taxpayers are not your coupon, Olivia.
Where's the coupon?
The taxpayers
People
are
are
not your
jealous
coupon.
about
You
that.
cannot
having a
you
challenge,
cannot-
Olivia.
You want me to answer the question?
I'd love you to answer the question. How high are you
Yeah,
going to rocket
yeah.
everybody's tax bill?
Can't just
Answer
make it
the
up.
question.
Okay.
You're not 20%, you're making up the numbers. I'm hearing 36, I'm hearing 20.
But you
Okay,
you're the one that can clear it up.
Okay.
This
We
is
don't have a
uncomfortable.
number.
It's uncomfortable.
Libby, you
9
asked for a
seconds.
clear answer. I'll give you the clear answer. There are half the people around this table voted to proceed in the next steps of a municipal sales tax. That is just crazy talk. I will not do that. They want to put road tolls on the Gardner and DVP. A number of the candidates here voted to proceed with that. I will not do that. Tearing down the Gardner, that's
Premier
just
won't let you
crazy
do
talk.
that.
Absolutely. We need to focus on not increasing people's taxes, and yet there's already discussion about a whole bunch of new revenue tools. Not on my watch.
Okay, I have the next question on something that I
just
hope will
answer
be
the
less
question about
contentious,
coupons?
but
Is the
really
luxury-
important. We've had a Vision Zero plan in place for years, yet the number of pedestrian deaths and injuries keep climbing, mostly among older people. In the first 20 days of this year, 88 pedestrians were hit, up from 50 last year at the same time. That's on top of a 20% increase in the number of pedestrians struck the year before, which was nearly 1,200. So, Mark Saunders, what are you going to do about that?
Thank you. Again, I'm going to make sure that there are enough police officers that are out there working
You didn't
and
do
doing
that when
what they
you were
need to be
police
able to do.
chief.
Thanks, Josh. You just give me the time to
you
talk.
didn't do
That'd
it.
be great.
You didn't
And
do
you know what, Josh, just let me finish.
your record.
Secondly, on top of that, making sure that when we deal with downtown, having traffic wardens so that the environment is safer. Thirdly, making sure we set up a committee that deals with making our city senior safe.
So more
I know that
bureaucracy,
program
huh?
has actually started, but working with the communities to find out where those issues are, especially in those long straight strips where most of those things are happening. So 65% of those deaths that are happening are mid-block and 65 and over. That needs to be looked at and concentrated on. The last piece is leveraging technology. Technology has a huge cost savings, and when you do the research utilizing technology, there is a 20% less fatality rate that happens. So making sure that we look at those opportunities to make things happen, to create
I
a
think
much
Chloe
safer
will-
I think
Yes,
Chloe,
right
go ahead.
In his plan, he wants to get rid of the IT department, so I'm not sure who's going to run the technology he's talking about. First and foremost. Stop talking. Secondly, what we really need to do is take the money that parking enforcement is making for the police and actually put it into road design and road improvements. We have sidewalks that are uneven and that can't be walked because we are not putting any money into pedestrianism.
Right.
We put a lot more money into serving cars that are coming from the 905 versus making our streets accessible for seniors.
That's provincial.
It's
And-
not. I understand
Yeah,
it's
and
provincial, but
sometimes
this
they
is
start doing this and they leave stuff in the middle of the street,
Yeah.
dangerous,
Yeah.
for who knows how long. I
And
mean,
that's where we really need to take in bylaw enforcement up, because bylaw enforcement is inconsistent. Depending on who you get on that day, you might get a stickler, or you might get someone who's lax. And this is where
let her talk.
we need to have TTC a part of integrated transportation planning. We have a transportation service department at the City of Toronto that works independently. TTC Corporation works independently. We need to bring all of the transit planning departments under one commission so that we're planning first and last mile routes completely.
Yeah. I also,
Josh, you were going to say something here, quickly?
No, by the way,
Redesign was a good idea.
I just
Yeah, we
I want to
agree.
acknowledge that I really appreciate what Chloe just said.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as we need to invest in road design, part of my plan is road design. We need enforcement, and frankly, Mark actually gave up on traffic safety enforcement.
You know what? That is
when
so
he was chief.
not
That's true. Look at the numbers.
It was based on the budget.
Mark,
These are the same people that want
the budget was going up, and you were
Mark. Every year
that
you
is not
voted
true.
to take
you
money
gave
away.
up on road safety, and your regulations.
Okay, wait,
Every
let's
opportunity
have our city planner.
But regulations and road design
You kept taking
need
money
to
away.
improve across our
It
city.
is about road design, and look, the question was pointed out that a disproportionate amount of these serious injuries and fatalities are seniors. And you know where they take place? They take place in the suburbs, where you have sometimes 900 meters, a kilometer in between signalized intersections.
That's right.
So we need to build streets that are safe for people. We know that speed kills, and particularly when you design a road to look like a highway, people drive it like a highway. Our automatic speed enforcement program has been very effective at slowing down speeding drivers through our neighborhoods, and that's important for safety.
I live at Parkside. People keep dying at Parkside.
Oh my God, Parkside.
Yes,
That's like
But
you
we
have
need to do
speeding
more of
enforcement
it. But
boxes.
Chloe, we need to do
As
more
I
of it.
said,
And that's
Absolutely,
how
Brad.
And so
Okay.
that's why in my platform, I am increasing the automatic speed enforcement
But
because
design
it has
People
been
knock
very
over the speed
effective.
enforcement machine, and this is what
No,
I'm saying. We need
they-
police. Yes. I live at Hyde Park. People are getting
Oh
killed
my God.
every day
I
by
know, I know.
vehicles. And it's because the cops are in cars, they're not walking around. Get the cops out of the cars, have them walking around, and have them actually put the fear of God into these drivers.
So it's a
That is
combination
so-
of
if you wanna
things.
talk
It's a
about-
combination
It's
of things.
You
It's
have
more
to
than
be
a
able to
combination
use
of things.
Well, that's why it's a
technology.
combination.
Having
And it's
police
road
do it
design.
on their own is not the solution. It's 2023.
Yeah.
You need
So
a
I just
mix
wanna
of
say-
solutions.
Technology is part of it.
You need
But also,
road design, you need
but there's
technology,
never
you
going to be
need
enough.
police.
Regulations will be ignored. There's never going to be enough police, but to actually do road safety. But there
I'll
has
make
to
sure
be.
there's enough
Well,
police,
no,
Josh.
but standing on every road in our entire city every day, 24/7.
Not credible.
That's
Put 'em on
ridiculous.
Not credible.
You need to design a road safely.
So one of the things that I will do, just in because I agree that Chloe's laid out a really concrete approach that we can take. I will have those senior safety zones increased under the Vision Zero
Everywhere in our
program,
city should
so
be a
that
safety zone.
so that we can
Not just one
we can
corner.
understand where
Everywhere.
just like we have school zones, we need
For
to have
kids
our
and
senior
seniors.
and
Seniors
for
live
accessibility
everywhere.
as well.
It's not just one place that they go.
No,
Seniors
What about
live
I
everywhere.
is it time
understand
to
that.
go
I
to
understand
the
that, but where there is a heightened sensitivity
can I-
in a
can I say
neighborhood,
something?
I will make sure that the signaling is there.
Okay, we'll have more after the break when we come back. Okay, John. to the CARP Toronto mayoral debate on Fight Back. And let's move on to the next thing, one at a time. Some of you are promising free TTC. Why should taxpayers pay for free TTC?
I can start because that's my commitment.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead.
They shouldn't. Right now in Toronto, we suffer from what they call a broken windows problem, where there are so many minor infractions going on in this city, and we can't allow that to go on anymore. I mean, when we talk about this city moving in the direction of Seattle, San Francisco, Vancouver, this urban decay, I mean, it starts with the little stuff. That's why we've seen this sort of crisis on our streets.
Okay, I'm asking about free TTC,
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it.
She did, I didn't.
Yeah, this is my commitment
Yes.
that I've made to the seniors in our city. And it was actually a recommendation from a senior in Scarborough when I was at a mosque. She said, you know, our fixed income and our affordability, we can't afford to buy food. Even a small thing like that will help. Turns out it adds up to over $1,200 a year for seniors who will ride 5 days a week on the TTC. It'll be absolutely free. And for wheel-trans users as well. We need to get ridership up on the TTC because we are actually subsidizing that anyway. So if we increase the ridership on the TTC, make sure it's safe, make sure it's reliable as a system, and boost overall ridership, that's going to help to keep our
Can
system
we
healthy.
afford it, Mark? I think you offer it on Mondays only.
Just on Mondays, and
What
we can't
about
not afford it. From
Tuesday, Wednesday,
from 10
Thursday,
to 3.
Friday, Saturday,
I thought
Sunday?
we were
Let him
agreeing that
talk.
we're going to have an opportunity
Okay,
to
I
speak,
thought we're all
and then that
letting
would
each
be
other
great.
talk.
And then, of course, I'm going to ask the province to assist on that. Social isolation is the #1 enemy, especially when it comes to our seniors. Our seniors have helped develop this city. I think as a small token of appreciation, it is something that is absolutely necessary as a starting
have a
point
cost
to
on it?
enhance health. And I don't have the cost,
I
but
have
I
the
do
cost.
know that
Libby,
Okay.
you know what? I would love to do that, but the main thing right now is to make sure that seniors feel safe to come into the GTC, that get to their doctors on time,
Yes.
and they get their
We'll talk
appointments. We
safety
need to
later.
have reliability. That's why I will reverse
Jane
those cuts.
Jacobs, eyes
and
on the
I,
street.
And I will make sure that there's more cameras, more support for the TTC, so they can rely and actually come back to use the TTC, so it's safe and reliable.
Olivia, you have not promised that, right?
What I have promised is to restore the service. Right now, people have to pay more and get much less services.
Yep.
And a lot of the cuts of service means longer wait on buses, longer waits on subways, and that makes no sense. The other thing is that if we want safety, we need eyes on the station. We need to bring back the fare collectors. We need to bring back 2 operators in the trains because sometimes people need help. If you just have one
Chloe,
operator, is not enough.
So one of the things that I would like to do is just subsidize low-income rides because not all seniors are low-income. Some of them actually have wealth.
Yeah.
Kids that are 12, some of them come from wealth.
That
And
makes
we're paying,
sense.
we're paying for a lot of subsidies
That is
because we
done.
take a one-size-fits-all approach to all of our programs.
And just a minute, there are a lot of people who say that having the kids ride free encourages
costly.
the lawlessness.
Yes.
We've had fires.
12-year-old?
They're under 12.
They're under 12.
Yeah.
They say
They're
they're
not
under
checking
12. You
ITS.
have a good look at something.
No, but they're the ones who's getting it for free.
I just think, are we talking on transit safety or are we talking about free TTC right now?
Like, we're talking about free TTC, but
we can talk about
But if
both.
we're going to talk
We can talk
safety,
about all
that's
of it.
a different piece.
My priority is to make sure that seniors feel safe and come back, and we restore their services so they can come back. Bring the seniors back. For me, that is my priority as mayor: safety, reliability, and convenience.
If I could jump in, I would say that the TTC is not free, right? There's a cost. In fact, it's over $1 billion of subsidy that the City of Toronto puts in to operate that. And this is the largest system in North America that does not receive a nickel from the province or federal government.
Exactly. Yep.
And that is foundationally present. I'm going to just finish. That is the foundational challenge with the operating pressures that the TTC faces. If you're a city in the U.S., you're getting support from the state and the federal government, and we need to make sure
And Toronto
that we are
used to as
pushing.
well.
Yeah, we used
Yeah.
to, and we need to make sure that we go back to that because blowing $1 billion in the budget every year and suggesting that we're going to do more concessions that are already on the table is not sustainable. There's a lot of people, to Chloe's point, that actually don't need a subsidy to ride TTC. And the idea of a blanketed subsidy for people ignores the fiscal challenges and the realities of our funding model for TTC.
Josh.
Yes, and I'm glad that Brad said that because the reality is anyone, I mean, it's so easy if you're running for mayor to say, I'm going to make everything
free.
Right? Yeah. And you can show a book.
I hope I get to respond to that,
right?
Libby.
But if I may, and I get why
directly-
people want to do that, but the reality is, if we're to be honest with people and not be manipulative, is that we need to ensure that we have an arrangement that has the operating costs of transit actually supported by higher levels of government before the way that it was before Mike Harris cut it.
That's right.
And if we don't do that, while we have to deal with accessibility, Chloe brought up accessibility, some of our subway stations are not accessible yet.
No, they're not.
I agree that we need to support, like, you know, screens to make sure that our platforms are safe.
But
we need to.
I'm letting him finish, and
if
we'll
I may,
move on.
just to conclude the thought, if I may.
Let him conclude the thought,
But if
please.
we don't, honestly, if we don't have the money to do it, we won't be able to do it. So let's begin by improving our transit
system that we have.
safe, reliable, and affordable. And yes,
Okay.
our goal should be free transit, but we can't promise it out of thin air.
Okay. The
So
next
let's-
question. Graffiti, bridges crumbling under the city. How important is that to you, and how are you going to fix it? Anthony's nodding his head.
Well, yeah, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities tells us that the percentage of infrastructure assets in our city and across Canada that's in poor or very poor or fair condition, I mean, it is massive. It's like 40% right now. We have a major problem. And as I was saying, we can't keep talking about spending on all these new bike lanes and City Hall logo-adorned crack pipes. We need to go back to basics.
What?
What? You guys didn't hear the news? You didn't know that taxpayer dollars
I know
are going
we have
to
city
fund
condoms.
City Hall crack pipes? Yeah, we're not going to argue about that stuff here, but you didn't know that under your watch, Josh, taxpayer dollars has been sent
They're putting the emblem right on a crack pipe?
They're putting the sticker
Okay,
on it.
there
And the
you
sticker
go.
has the logo on it. But it's not. I actually don't think it's a laughing matter because I've been meeting with parents who are affected
Yeah, but you're
by the drug crisis.
fear-mongering, Anthony, and you know it.
Fear-mongering?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes.
You are making fun.
Anthony,
Josh, did you not hear what I said? Hold on, give me one moment here because
you've said it.
Focus on
go to that
saving
Kensington.
lives.
No, go to that
Focus on
Kensington
saving
Market
lives,
School.
affordability, okay? Focus on actual real
Okay,
issues.
focus on
you are
graffiti.
fear-mongering people.
No, I've been.
The question here
A
was
very
about
major
the question-
accusation was made against me.
You had your time, Anthony.
Go talk
Thank
to
you,
that
Anthony.
school
Yeah,
where
and-
children are being
The
harassed.
question
daily
here
by
was
people in
about
the drug crisis.
infrastructure. The question was about infrastructure.
Correct.
And Libby, there's a $46 billion backlog on the city for pressure for the next 10 years over operating and capital. The question is, who's going to be the champion that is actually going to work with the other orders of government on infrastructure money, making sure that we deliver for the city of Toronto? Who has the experience? I have the experience. I have the track record. I work with council. I work with other orders of government, and I work with labor, with business. We need to make sure that we bring the city together
But that
to
approach
get that
failed,
fair
though.
deal.
It did
No, it didn't
fail.
fail.
No,
You
so
got
far,
$2.6 billion.
Olivia,
We got $2.6 billion for
stop it.
THC. You
Stop
got
it.
$1.5 billion for
Olivia
rapid
answer.
housing, Josh.
Olivia.
There's money coming into the city.
Olivia.
It's ad hoc, but it's not
Okay,
structural.
we've heard you.
And
Olivia,
that's why
please.
we need that approach. Absolutely.
Libby, you would have seen that young line. There's a not so new anymore, but newer than the Bloor line, the subway cars. That came from the deal that we had with Mr. Paul Martin's budget.
But all
and that
of
got
the
1
cars
cent
come from
gas
the deal.
tax.
Olivia,
I'm
cars
saying-
come from the
no, I'm
deal.
just following up on what
All
she
of
said,
them
a
come
new
from the
deal,
deal.
right? I was a member of parliament for 8 years.
This is
I
a different
know
time.
how to
It's
get
a different time.
Olivia.
It's a different. It's
You
different.
built your career
It's
in being
the
an
crumbling
opposition
infrastructure
leader,
today and for the
basically.
future.
You've been.
You just talked about new deals.
I've been
did you
bringing
not?
people
Okay.
together
Okay,
to the
Libby.
table at council, with other orders of government. I have that experience.
You're all talking at once. I'm telling you, I don't think that's impressing the voters, honestly. So, does anybody have anything to say about graffiti specifically
Yes.
in 10 seconds?
We need more young people working. We can have a Toronto apprenticeship program that would have our young people across the city actually rebuilding their neighborhoods, getting skilled trades, and getting the mentorship that they need. It's a matter of us pushing it forward.
And that's the way to get rid of graffiti?
The federal government provides funding for apprentices already. They're providing funding for education, training, and employment. We need to use the money the feds are already giving us to actually have outcomes. The feds and the province are already giving the city money. We have an allocation problem. And the allocation problem is that our programs and services do not serve the needs of the working class. help them get jobs to fix their neighborhood.
Graffiti in 10 seconds.
The graffiti eradication program says the best concept is to remove it within 24 hours, or else it will continue.
You can't even remove the raccoon.
Okay, let him talk, please.
It won't diminish the quality of life. When you leave it there, businesses start to lose money. People don't want to go there because they feel unsafe.
Right.
And it is worth the investment to make sure that it is removed so that the city looks healthy and viable.
Okay.
Put art on
All
it
right.
so it doesn't get
Brad.
tagged anymore.
Yeah, look, I would say, I think all of us,
too, that-
I would say all of us want a city that we can be proud of. And sometimes when you walk around Toronto right now, it doesn't feel that way anymore. The garbage bins are overflowing. There is graffiti. I hear from the small business community all the time that they can't keep up with the graffiti removal. We do need to have constructive pathways to employment. We do need to have community benefit agreements so that we are getting young folks employed in jobs. And we also need to be working with our 80+ different BIAs across the city so that we have the resources in place so they can get out and take care of that graffiti when it goes up. Because broken window syndrome, the more that you see of that, it perpetuates more of that sort of, bad behavior with the graffiti.
We
Yeah,
all
and
Mitzie,
also
go
we
ahead.
can't
Mitzie,
have-
please.
We can't have a city in economic decline. We're at risk of that right now. And so making sure that we have vibrant main streets, like the Cafe TO is another poor decision by this current council. Let's take off those administrative burdens. Let's make sure that our small businesses on main streets can be vibrant and very well supported. And these active streets will not have graffiti because people will be opening up shops. They will be actually employing people, and we will have a healthy city. Under my plan, we will also make sure that the garbage bins are kept clean and they're well maintained. We'll fill the potholes, we'll clear the streets, and make sure we have a vibrant, beautiful city.
And all the streets will be paved with gold.
Actually, that is the job. That's the job. That's the job. As mayor of this city, absolutely, we will have a clean and
street
beautiful
paved with
Toronto
gold. I prefer
under my
silver.
plan.
So do I.
Listen, I think
Okay.
that's a standard that you should definitely
Thank you.
aspire to, as a clean
Thank you,
and beautiful
Mitzie.
city.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Becoming mayor is about more than your platform. It's about being the right person at the right time. I believe Toronto gets the person that we want or need. That David Miller begat Rob Ford and Rob Ford begat John Tory. Very concisely, not talking over each other. I want each of you to tell me why you are the right person right now, and I will designate you, starting with
30
Anthony.
seconds or 1 minute?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'm the father of 3 small kids. I've been a newspaper columnist, broadcaster for the past 10 years. I know this city. I love this city. It's a city worth fighting for, and I believe that all the voices who played a role in getting us to this place where we have so many problems on our streets. Young people feel they don't have a future. Seniors, they don't like going downtown anymore. They're looking at other options. I don't believe that's the right path forward to go with these status quo voices. I'm a fresh voice, a fresh perspective. I love Toronto. Toronto's worth fighting for, and I believe we can fix this, and I'm going to bring that leadership to City Hall.
Chloe.
I think you should vote for me as your mayor because I'm the only candidate talking about supporting the working class. We have a group of politicians that have been serving the needs of executives and management consultants for the past decade, and that's made our town into a tourist attraction. People can no longer live here, not even our nurses, our doctors, our police officers, and we really need to just look at our community assets and start building on top of them. We could provide housing on top of paramedic stations, fire stations, libraries, police stations. We could actually create a city where residents live, but we need to have working class representation, and that's me.
Mark Saunders.
Great, thank you. It's about experienced leadership. I had the opportunity of working for the billion-dollar agency, 7,400 people. It is easy just to say things, but it's another to deliver it. You have to understand how to collaborate. You have to know all of the community's needs. I have been across the city dealing with town halls, dealing with people on what the actual needs are. Your money will be respected. Instead of all of this talk, and most of the people here cause this problem, I will listen to everybody, create the right solutions to make the city a safe city, so it is a city where people will want to come. And by doing that, we will generate the proper funds to make our city the best city to live in.
Olivia Chow.
Today I think about my mom and dad, and I took care of them until they passed at 94. And they both have health challenges, pretty serious one. And I was coordinating over 20 caregivers, PSWs, and nurses and doctors. It's fragmented, but it's still doable. Now it's so much more difficult because it's unaffordable. It's also very fragmented. So what the city can do is provide better services for seniors. With me as the mayor, I understand the needs of seniors. Together, we are stronger. So let's create a city that's more affordable, more caring, and safer for seniors where we all feel we belong.
Anna, Bailao.
Libby, I came to this country when I was 15 years old, and I felt an enormous sense of opportunity. My parents, a construction worker and a seamstress, were able to buy a house within a couple years, and that is not happening. I had the privilege of serving as a councillor for 12 years and 5 years as deputy city mayor because of that opportunity. I want to make sure that we fix our services and we build housing because that's what's going to give people back that sense of opportunity in our city, that we have a city that works for them. I have the experience, I have the track record. I bring people together. I'm a champion for this city. I will work with councillors. I have 6 councillors that already came through and said, this is the councillor. This is the next mayor of Toronto. I've brought labor. I've brought business. We need to rally the city together to get a fair deal for Toronto to be the city of opportunity.
Josh.
I'm fighting to make our city a safe, affordable, and livable city. I'm a father of a 10-year-old. I've got a father who has Alzheimer's, who we support, and I understand the many of the challenges that we face. But I've also initiated the Toronto Senior Strategy, the Youth Equity Strategy. I've stood up for tenants. And I'm the only one, certainly one of the leading candidates, who isn't brung by a big party or corporate lobbyists or like Mark, Doug Ford's endorsement. I'm standing up for Toronto. And when I go and advocate for this city, I'm doing it for the Toronto residents and no one other than my neighbors and friends and people in every corner of this city who want a better Toronto and a city that works.
Bradford.
Well, thanks very much, and thanks for tuning in today. I think Torontonians are tired of waiting. They're tired of waiting for the Gardiner to be rebuilt. They're tired of being stuck in traffic. They're tired of waiting for affordable housing. They're tired of waiting for services that they can depend on. As an urban planner, I worked at City Hall. I saw the divisional silos. I saw the lack of accountability. As a councillor for 4 years, I've seen more of the same. Endless debate, deferral, and delay that is holding this city back. It's time for less talk and more action at City Hall. And when I am your mayor, I will be fighting for seniors, for young families like my own, for new Canadians who need affordability, community safety, and to get this city moving.
Mitzie Hunter.
Thank you, Libby, and thanks so much for tuning in today. This election is so important for the future of our city, and I want to thank our seniors who really created the city that we have today. And you know, the city that we want, I imagine that to be a city where seniors do ride free on the TTC, where seniors do get a break on their taxes, especially because we are in an affordability crisis. And under my plan, housing, we can have a $100,000 grant to those who want to divide their housing to create space for an affordable housing unit or maybe for a family member. And, you know, we've got to work together to fix the 6, fix housing, fix services, as well as the TTC, and make sure that we have a revival in Toronto as a city that works for everyone, everywhere in our city. We do have a bright future, and we thank our seniors for the legacy that they've established.
Finally, there is one promise that successful politicians at all levels of government almost always break. And that is to come back right away if you are elected, if we have given you your vote. So I'm going around. I want a yes or no answer, please.
Get us on the record.
Will you talk to us on Tuesday morning if you're elected? Olivia.
What time?
There's never an answer, Olivia.
I would if it's at the right time.
We'll work with you on that.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Anthony Furey.
Why not election night? Sure. Or the next morning. Absolutely. You got it.
Okay. Chloe Brown.
I'm a policy analyst. You can always call me.
Okay. Mark Saunders.
Absolutely.
Josh Matlow.
Yes, I'd be delighted to.
Anna Bailao.
I'm an early riser. I'll be here.
Mitzie Hunter.
I love our Zoomers, and I will be here for sure.
Bradford.
Love your show. We'll do it on the 27th.
Okay, well, okay, we're going to be here. We have you on tape now.
We can vote tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, I'm about to tell people that. That is all the time we have. We hope that we have helped you make your decision. Advance polls open tomorrow, Thursday, June the 8th, and the election is on Monday, June the 26th. Please get out and vote. Thank you for joining the CARP debate on Fight Back. I'm Libby Znaimer. Goodbye for now.